Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Hope you can all see the screen. If not, Vicky will be helping us out. So Vicky, thank you for inviting me today. And thank you, Tampa Bay Libraries, for having me do this program today. I really appreciate it, and I hope you're going to find it to be useful to you. I just want to say that when we're all done, that you can feel free to email me after this program if you have any questions or if you would like to talk about anything. I would always welcome contact with you. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it, and I'm going to turn off my camera here. There you go. So yes, so it doesn't distract me in the little corner. So anyway, welcome to strategic planning when you can't afford a consultant, because the future ain't what it used to be, right? Strategic planning is recommended for every library, whether you're a big library or small library, and there's really no need to fear it. Today, I'm going to be breaking down all the elements of a generic strategic plan to make it easier for you to write one yourself. And by that, I mean the director and your trustees, because that's exactly what you may have to do. You're going to have to kind of take the lead over your trustees in strategic planning. Most libraries really don't have the funding to hire a consultant to write a strategic plan. And from what I'm hearing, because I get a lot of phone calls on this, consultants are actually getting harder and harder to find. I remember a decade ago in New Jersey, we had a number of consultants that were able to do strategic planning and help libraries out. And now every one of them that I know has retired, and I don't know anyone who's actually doing it anymore. So that's why I designed this program. I want to break down the specific sections of a generic strategic plan for you. I'm going to talk about the delegation of tasks, what the library director is responsible for, what the library trustees or board of directors are responsible for. And then we're going to talk about different parts of the plan, like the vision statement, the mission statement, a community analysis, goals, budgets, timelines, and evaluations. But first, I want to tell you that about our New Jersey treasurer, Yogi Berra, and why I have all his quotes here. He just is the funniest guy, and he was a baseball catcher. I don't know if any of you follow baseball, or especially on the Northeast here, but he was a baseball catcher, the manager, and the coach. Who played 18 seasons for the New York Yankees. But I think that he has become even more famous for what they call his yogiisms. And these are kind of these like cheerful double takes that are like witty and they're profound at the same time. And you're probably familiar with some of them, even if you may not know who Yogi Berra is. So I want you to know that everything that you're going to read on your screen today was actually said by Yogi Berra. And I'm just going to imagine that you enjoy them as much as I do, and that you're laughing hysterically when you see them pop up on your screen. So why do you need to do a strategic plan? Because if you don't know where you're going, you're going to end up someplace else. And that is something that you don't want. Without a strategic plan, you have no direction for your library. You can't set goals to begin with, and then you have no way of measuring your success in meeting those goals. Libraries cannot keep doing what they have always done and expect to survive, let alone flourish. Strategic planning begins with a hard look at the present and future trends that lead to a discussion of the ways your library will address new challenges. And as you create the plan, you'll get an overall picture of your library, its strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and ongoing projects and services. And that's what's called the SWOT analysis, SWOT. You've probably seen that before. We're also going to take a microscopic look at your community to see who really lives there, who uses the library, and more importantly, who doesn't use the library. What are the needs of your entire community that aren't being fulfilled through the services that you offer? And yes, it takes a lot of work, a lot of research and organization. Overall, I would say it should take 3 to 4 months for you to finish this plan on your own. And I really don't recommend letting it go on longer than that. Don't plan for a year, because if you end up planning that, taking that long to plan, you're going to have to start all over again if you wait for a year before you complete it. So It's a great opportunity for you to look ahead for solutions to long-range needs and expectations. Strategic planning, you can think of it as a management tool that you can use to chart and shape your library's future. And it sort of gets your head out of the weeds so you can see the big picture. Strategic planning allows you to be proactive rather than reactive and in a panic all the time, trying to latch on to the latest trends. And I think that that's something I've seen that libraries do quite often. Something new comes out and you feel like you have to do it and grab onto it before you really see whether it's sort of like a passing fad or not. So strategic planning is really going to help you avoid that kind of reactive situation all of the time. So let's start with the organization and delegations of tasks. And I'm going to start with a director since, there may be a lot of directors on the program today. If not, it's because the director really is going to take the lead. So what does the director need to do? Well, it's got to educate the trustees on the entire strategic planning process. Also, you're going to help formulate that process. How are you going to get things done? And really, first, right off the bat, so to speak, you're going to start working with a planning team and committee. So you've got to appoint the people that are going to be on that committee, which is going to include the director of the library, some trustees, some of the selected staff, maybe the head of your friends group, and also community members, and not just the ones that are using the library. Now, for this part, when you're going to end up conducting research afterwards, when you have the committee, I would recommend that if you have any funding at all, to have someone help you with the community, like a community scan or environment scan is what they call it. That's a place, if you have any money at all, that you could probably use some help in putting together different groups of people and questioning them on what they would like from the library. So that's where I would recommend some kind of facilitator if you have the funds at all. If not, you'll be doing, that part yourself too. And the director also is going to help set the goals, the strategies, and the priorities, collaborate to help draft the plan, suggest action items to achieve goals, and manage the library to support the plan. So you can see that's a pretty long list of tasks that the director really is going to be responsible for. The director is going to be in the driver's seat as far as the strategic plan goes and getting everything up and running and done. So then we know what the director is going to do now. What's the role of the trustees or the board of directors? Well, they're going to establish how the work on the plan is going to get done. They're going to serve on an information and gathering committee, and that's that environment scan I was just talking about. They're going to support the community, getting involved, get out there and talk about the importance of becoming involved in the planning of library programming going forward. They're going to help set the goals, objectives, and priorities, collaborate with the director to draft the actual plan, and regularly evaluate progress towards the completion of the goals that are created in the plan. And so really, it's really the trustees' job to do the strategic plan. And it's one of the most important jobs they have, along with hiring a library director. But in all honesty, they are going to be looking to the library director for advice to gather the information and to put it all together. So as your strategic planning committee is ready to begin to formulate a strategic plan, I want you to keep something in mind, and that is, it's not your library, it's theirs. Library is the community anchor, an essential service, and as such, it belongs to the entire community. And your job really is to engage stakeholders in the community to make your library reflect that community. And every community is different, therefore every library will be different. They'll have some core values, but really everything is tailored to the community where the library sits in the center as the anchor. And strategic planning does a good job of reminding you whom you serve, what the different demographic groups and interest groups there are in your community. And I imagine there's probably many out there that you haven't even thought of before. And that's what keeping this in mind is going to help you do. What needs does this community have that your library could fulfill that they're not doing right now? And the community scan is it's the most important part of the strategic plan, and it is the most time intensive part, having to do this field research. So that means, yeah, you have to get out of the office and you have to get out of the building and you have to get into the community, and you're going to do the research that's going to force you as the library to ask some pretty tough questions like, what are we doing? Why are we doing it? For whom are we doing it? Are we doing really what the community wants and what they need? Is it sustainable? What should we be doing differently in the future? And so by reminding yourself that this is not your library, it's theirs, these are the kind of questions you're going to be answering, and it can really propel the future of the library forward in a very, very positive direction. Now, what I don't have for you today is a template of a strategic plan, because there's just so many samples online, including there's excellent resources on Web Junction, templates that were on Web Junction. ALA just came out with a new strategic planning book. So really, you can select the template that you like best and the one that you think will work best for your library, or you can totally create your own. However, every strategic plan is going to have the following elements: the vision statement, the mission statement, information gathering and analysis, the environment scan, goals and strategies, the budget, the timeline, and then an evaluation of the plan. And I'm going to break all those down in the next slides coming up. A strategic plan helps you clarify your library's visions and mission, and it gives you the tools and instruments to actually put your plans into action. But when you do start putting pen to paper, always start with a vision and a mission statement for your library. And there's often a lot of confusion about what the difference is between the two. So first, you want to tackle your vision statement. And the vision statement focuses on what your library will be in the next decade. It sets out these very long-term goals. It's meant to invigorate and challenge, and it's focused on what the community needs. You want to please keep it short and very readable. No one wants to read an entire page of no matter how visionary. So, these are a couple of statements right here. Our vision is to be the community's best source for inspiration, knowledge, and ideas. The Anytown Public Library will be the integral physical and virtual gateway by which our broad and diverse community may access information, And so you can see that these are pretty general and they're very broad, far-reaching statements, and that's what your vision is. It's a far-reaching statement of what you're going to be, what you're going to become in the next several years. And the mission statement now is your purpose statement, your reason, the reason the library exists for the community. And it talks about who you serve, what you're trying to accomplish, what roles do you play in the lives of your patrons and in your community, and what do we do as a library, and where are we headed? And again, the same thing, keep it short. We link people to the world, transforming lives, enriching neighborhoods, and preserving history. And so basically that's a difference between the two. The vision statement is what you aspire to be in the future, and the mission statement lays out your purpose and your reason for existing. Now, I've been working with strategic planning for about 15 years now, and the big difference is what I see is really not in the components of a strategic plan, but really, say, a decade ago, we talked about the mission was about the library itself. And now the mission is all about the community. So it's like the wording in the plans have changed from library to being about community. And I think that's a really big switch and a big pivot. And I think it's absolutely correct. And I think it's led to a lot of great things that libraries have always done, but in particular, over the changing decade that we've had, and becoming more and more of an essential service and the heart of the community. So I talked about this before. It's the most important part of the planning process. And it's the part that everyone wants to skip, but you can't, you really can't. And that's this community or environment scan. And there's more on how to do that in the next slide. It's not really a strategic plan without this information gathering and analysis of your community. What you have to do is find out who's not using the library and why, and what do they need that you're not providing. And this is where you need to seek out people who don't use the library for your focus groups and surveys. They're the community gatekeepers, seniors, the differently abled, the homebound folks in ethnic pockets or neighborhoods. So who are the decision makers in your community? Do they know you? Do they value the library? And then you're going to ask this community when you do this research, why do you live in this town? And what do you do in your free time? Where do you go? What kind of support do you need? Do your kids need help with college applications? Do you need, technical skills, digital equity skills? Do you need help with business research? And all of this translates into solutions for the library so that you can build community relationships and strategic partnerships with any number of organizations, clubs, agencies, and institutions in your town. Now, there are a number of different methods you can use to gather information from your stakeholders. There's mail surveys and online surveys. You can make phone calls. You could hold community forums outside of the library. You could target the forums by age, ethnicity, okay, anything that you could think of, so you get a different slice of the people all around the community. And one important thing is, don't forget your staff. You want to make sure you also do a staff survey and include them in the planning process. I'm sure they have some great ideas. Let them also see what you plan to do, because the plan is not only about the library serving the community, but it's also about buy-in from the staff and keeping the staff engaged and keeping their skills updated so that they can then provide better service to the community. So don't forget about them. The results of what this field of research is what's going to guide your strategic plan, and it justifies why you want to move forward in a particular goal, because people asked you for this. It forces you to analyze and identify trends. So maybe you've never done this before, or maybe it's been done so long ago, your town may have completely changed over the last 20, 30 years, even 10 years. And so that's why, if it's been a while since you've really analyzed your community, you're going to have to start from the beginning and do it again. So once you've collected and analyzed your research, you can begin to write your goals and strategies. And this is another set of terms that are used together and can be confusing. So the goals are long-term aims, what the community will receive from the library. All right, they're the general statements about the library's direction and aspirations. Select goals that can be achieved within a reasonable length of time, as well as serve as interim steps along the way. So as long as it's fitting within your 3-year plan, say you can have goals that are 1 year, 2 year, 3 year goals. You have one goal that lasts from 1 to 3 years, and you're going to achieve that in steps. And that's what the strategies really are for. And I like to use that word, but you can switch it out for objectives, because a lot of people in their strategic plan have used the term objectives. I've often seen the term tactics. So whatever you like best that makes the most sense for you is fine. But just know that the strategies are the how of moving forward towards those goals. But keep it simple. I mean, if you're a small library, even a mid-sized library, I think that 3 to 5 solid goals are plenty. I mean, I've seen libraries that have 10 goals, 20, 25 goals. And it's, naturally you look at a plan like that and you think, I can never, my library can never do anything like that. But Keep it simple. I think 3 to 5 are plenty for you. You don't want to have your goals go on for pages and pages. I mean, I would think that would induce a panic attack, really. If you're a larger library, you are going to have more goals, but I think that 3 goals, even for say each department in a larger library, I think that's plenty and that's achievable. The next part of the plan will be your budget, and it must be a realistic budget to cover the costs of the things you want to do, whether it's programming or a new tech lab, or you want to do a building addition, a new HVAC system, or hiring personnel like a new children's librarian. Combination of all or some of these things, you're going to have to plan out how you're going to pay for these once you establish that you need them in your goals. And so it's important to make sure you have the funding, or know where you can get the funding, or save up in a capital reserve over a number of years for a project. The budget that you have needs to be spread over the life of the entire strategic plan. So you can set aside a certain amount of funding in the first 2 years of a plan, and then do that big project, say in the third year or the final year of the plan. So you can plan, you can budget it out that way. You just want to make sure that you're going to have the funding available to do the things that you want to get done. And then most strategic plans, and you've been hearing me throw this 3-year number out at you. So most of them run for 3 years these days. And that's primarily due to the technology changing so rapidly and the environment. But if you feel that this isn't enough time realistically for you, you can stretch it out to 5. It's not recommended that you do that anymore, stretching it out to 5 years, but it can be done. A lot can happen in 5 years. I mean, look what's happened over the last 2 or 3. Who planned for the COVID pandemic, so yeah, we generally tend to recommend a 3-year plan at this point. You want to systematically work towards achieving your goals, and that's where timelines and benchmarks come in, so you can check your progress along the way. Benchmarking allows you to readjust if you get off track, or change the track if you have to. And you'll need to review this on a regular basis, actually. And so you check your benchmarking, and then you check it against decisions and the strategies that were made towards your goals and expenditures. But always make sure you are on budget, because your plans will entirely be derailed if you go off budget on anything. Now, as a director, if you're a library director today, you should review the plan on a monthly basis. Just to give it in a quick check, see what you're supposed to be working on that month or working towards that month. And then you should meet with the planning committee and review the plan status, I would say, every 3 months, and check in on the progress being made. You could ask for some written reports if you want, short written reports in between there if you'd like. And then at the end of the first year, or at the end of a year, you want to do a 1-page progress report. Nothing too in-depth. You don't have to write this huge paper on it, but just a 1-pager that lets everyone know, whether it's your trustees, your staff, the public, your elected officials, know where you stand and whether or not you're ready to move onto the next benchmark. You can, of course, as I mentioned, have longer range capital goals, like the building of a new library, say. And this planning would also be mentioned in the regular strategic plan. But if you're planning like an addition or a big or a new building, of course, you're going to have a separate capital plan for that. We do have a template online for capital planning basics. So you could look on that if you go to the New Jersey State Library website. We have a trustees page that will have that information. So then it's time for your final review. Now, what I mean by a final review is when you just finished writing the plan, not 3 years out when you're making your conclusions, say, and you're ready to begin a new plan. So the final review is when you finish writing the plan itself. And once you're done, what you want to do is put that plan away for a week or two and don't even look at it. Because after working on a document for several months, it's easy to get so close to the plan that you're going to miss its obvious flaws. And so after a couple of weeks, take it back out, shake it off, look at it with a fresh eye, and then ask yourself these questions. Is this the plan that you intended to create? Does your plan connect your mission to your vision? Is your plan realistic? Is it complete? Can you do it? Is it, you want to make sure all the elements in your plan support each other. And so I think that over planning can be a very common problem. You can take a look at it and say, well, maybe I should push some deadlines further out or further down the road in the plan than originally anticipated, because you don't want to gang up everything in year one and think you're going to do everything in year one. It's just too much. It's too overwhelming to plan that way. So, finally, is the plan complete? Are there any holes in your plan or potential activities that are unsupported? And is it clear and easy to follow? You want to make sure it's jargon free. It's easy to write down an action item or a goal that kind of makes sense in the moment, but making sure that the action makes sense in 6 months is really crucial. So that's a final review after you just write the plan. And we'll talk about, once you get to the end of your 3 years a little later on. Finally, monitor and check your progress as you go along. And remember that the plan is an action document. It's not meant to sit on a shelf. So you want to ask, are your goals and objectives being achieved or not? Are they still realistic from when you start the plan in the beginning? Are the timelines correct? If not, why not? Should our deadlines be changed, for the completion of certain projects? And do you have the money and the equipment, the facilities and the training to achieve the goals that you've written? And should your priorities be changed to put more focus on achieving the goals? So thinking of the plan as a living document, and that changes are certainly can be made as long as you provide sort of like a justification on why you have to make those changes. And we'll talk a little bit more about that too. It's a judgment call as to how often you want to review and monitor your plan. I had suggested earlier that directors monitor it monthly and the trustees and various committees review it quarterly. Is there some extraordinary or rapid change like that's coming from outside or inside the library? That's another reason why you're going to want to monitor it more frequently, on a monthly basis. And then maybe your trustees and library board should see the status more frequently than you thought. So if it's, I would say at least quarterly, and you maybe even if you have a monthly board meeting, you should feel free to bring up, in a few minutes, update them on the plan at what's going on at the monthly meetings. So I'm going to throw a little curveball at you here, and I want you to forget everything I said about following your plan, because disruptions happen all the time, right? Of course, COVID was such an extreme disruption that it created a total pivot for libraries. But look at some of the things that came from that global crisis. So there are other things that can happen, the other disruptions like funding challenges and a loss of revenue. There's grant opportunities that may not come along again. And I know for state libraries, for us, it was the CARES Act funding and the ARPA funding that all had to be spent in a year. And literally, we got the funding and we had to drop everything in library development at the New Jersey State Library. And I know other state libraries did the same. And we had to let all our other projects go and work on giving out grants to libraries with the CARES funds and the ARPA funds. And that was really huge to be in the middle of, having all these plans and all of a sudden having to just drop them because we're not used to all this money coming our way, and we had to give it out fairly quickly. So, as I said, your plan's this living, breathing document, and it has to be adaptive for you to take advantage of opportunities that come along, or for you to regroup in times of a crisis. So it's okay to deviate from the plan. The plan really is a guideline. It's not a strict roadmap which must be followed. So if you do deviate from the plan, though, you want to make sure there's some mechanism is identified as the reason, for your changing the plan, if it really is necessary. So, for example, you would want to document what is causing changes to be made and why the changes are made. And why is often different than what is causing those changes. Document the changes as they are made, and that includes changes to the goals and objectives, the responsibilities, and the timelines. And make sure you always keep old copies of the plan for reference. So every time you make an update, whether it's quarterly or annually, you want to make sure, don't get rid of that old plan, because you may have to refer back, and you may have to show why changes had been made. And so you're going to forget all that if you get rid of your old plan. So always keep the old copies, or as you go through iterations of your plan as the years go by. Now, so last but not least, strategic planning is a transparent process, and you want everyone to see exactly what your library is doing to keep up with community need. That's why you have to promote your plan when you're finished. So you want to show everyone the deep depth, as Yogi Berra says, of your services. Rarely is this really done. I mean, when the plan is completed, rarely do organizations acknowledge the success they've achieved, because it was a lot of hard work, and it required many hands to put together. So you want to make sure that your trustees show off the plan before elected officials and service groups, and to the school board and PTOs, and to anyone else that you can think of. You want to make sure that you're going to highlight the plan and its potential for the community. People are going to respond favorably when they see that a library project is planned for them to improve services. So it's very important, you have copies of the plan out in your library. If you're going to be, say, getting a new tech lab or anything like that, you can have like a blueprint up, or like, a mock-up of what it's going to look like when you're done, so that people who come in and use the library can know what's coming down the pike, down the line for them. And it gets a community very excited. And plus, like I said, it's very important that the way you spend taxpayers' money be transparent. So everybody sees what their money is actually being spent on. And, pretty much we know that people are going to support the library, even though we're in a bit of tough times right now. So celebrate your successes along the way. Often we're too focused on progress and problem solving, and we want to get that done and check that off, and then move on to the next strategy, or the next goal, the next version of the plan. So make sure you stop and take a breath. Celebration is an important part of accomplishing those objectives you work so hard on. And without this kind of sense of closure or acknowledgement and fulfillment for a job well done, the next planning cycle can become a real grind. So I kind of blew through that very quickly, which leaves us plenty of time for questions. But I want to quickly summarize that today was like really just an overview of strategic planning that can be done on your own without paying a consultant. We talked, about all the different roles, the role of the director, the trustees in the planning process, the committees and staff in the planning process. We went over all the parts of the strategic plan that you need. You're going to need your vision statement, your mission statement, goals, strategies. And I hope I really emphasize the importance of the information gathering piece of the plan, the community analysis. We talked about timelines and benchmarks, the importance of the budget, and the need for an ongoing evaluation of the plan, and why your plan should really be 3 years and not 5 years, unless you feel that's absolutely undoable for you. Now, a lot of people say, okay, if I get to the end of 3 years, can I just like add another year and then add another year and add another year? So know that that's really not the way it works. If you get to the end of your, say, 3-year plan, what you need to do is write an entirely new plan. All right, start all over again and redo everything. Take a look at all the different parts we talked about and see what needs to be updated in the next 3-year plan, say. That's really the right way to do it. And I think the hardest part is really if you don't have a plan right now. This seems like an awful lot of work, you know. But if you can slog through this and get your first strategic plan done and get that under your belt, knowing how it works, you'll have a lot more confidence when you do the next one. And if you the future plan, knowing it's coming up ahead of time that you're going to have to start all over, you know, again, brand new, I don't think it's going to be as difficult as you think. You've got to get through the first one, and then you're going to sort of just roll along. You're going to know how it's done. You're going to be prepared for it. And I think that when your second, third plan, certainly you're going to be an old pro at it. I'm very sure. There's you can look up a number of other plans from libraries. There's one I saw at the Philadelphia Free Public Library. It's literally 1 page. And, you know, that's a big library system. So I didn't talk about that here. I did see it, and it's very intriguing. And you might want to go online and on their website and see if you can find it. I'm sure it's up there. You should have your strategic plan up on your website if you don't, so it's available to people. But you can look at the Philadelphia Free Library and take a look at that 1-page plan and see if maybe that will work for you. What I liked it because it was 1 page. What I didn't like about it was I used to be a small library director myself, and I felt that I really needed step-by-step guidance on how to do some things. And I looked at that strategic plan, and in distilling it down to 1 page, I felt it was so general. I wouldn't know as a small library what to do under those, say, 4 categories that they listed there. That was just so general for me. I really need a full outline of what my goals are going to be and how I'm going to achieve them and where the money is coming from and all that. However, that is a new direction for strategic plans these days. So please take a look and see if that works for you. Just because it's not for me doesn't mean it won't be for you. You know, as I said, there's no right way and wrong way to do the planning. You just want to make sure you have the major parts down. So that you're doing a thorough job and giving the community what the community wants and what the community needs. So I want to thank you very much for having me today. I hope that this was helpful for you. And I'm going to take a look in the chat box, or maybe Vicki wants to come back on and you know, see if we have any questions, or if you want to discuss anything a little more in depth. If not, then just let me say here, or like, I want to just thank everyone who made this day necessary, as Yogi Berra said. Hope you got a few chuckles out of his quotes. So thanks, everyone. And Vicki, I'm not sure if you're still there. I'm going to take a look in the chat box and see what we have.